Well, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by A's Cast Live today. We're trying to figure out who are these guys that we got for Frankie Montas and for Lou Trevino. How are you?
I'm doing well, getting ready for a Rail Riders game myself, and excited to see this trade deadline come and go.
Yeah, you knew the Yankees were going to be players. We started to hear, obviously Billy Beane and Brian Cashman are the two longest tenured executives in Major League Baseball. But they've been very good friends for many, many years. So it wasn't shocking when we heard, because the A's and Yankees have been doing deals for years. But when you heard Frankie Montas, we can actually give you the scouting report too on Lou Trevino. But how'd you feel about that for the Yankees?
So knowing where New York wants to go, what they want to do, and I thought they would have been in on him prior to the season anyway. A couple of guys that they've been kind of kicking the tires on, I feel, for a long time. So it doesn't surprise me. I think the addition of Torino is an interesting wrinkle to this deal. For me, it's the Yankees giving up two-fifths of my rotation here in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. It was a tough deal to swallow, but I understand why. You know, I want to see the Yankees win, but I want to see the Rail Riders win. I'm a little biased on my own team.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting a couple of really premium prospects from this organization. You know, Sears doesn't quite have the prospect label, but he has been so sneaky good this year with just phenomenal control. So I'm excited for them to get the opportunity. Waldichuk is a California guy, San Diego, but a California guy to begin with. I think it's a really intriguing deal for New York. It gives them that second arm, and with their rotation, you know, with Garrett Cole, who do you follow with? Can they stay healthy? What are you going to get out of Nestor Cortez? You know, when do the innings hit? So I think any deal they were going to make for pitching made sense. I don't like giving up anybody at any point, but that's just me. I get why they did it, and I think it's a really good deal. I think it could be a good deal for both sides.
All right, which guy do you want to go over first from your team that we've got?
So J.P. Sears is a guy that has been up with New York a couple of times this year. He was with them out of spring training. He's a 3-pitch guy, but his control is phenomenal. I don't know if he's necessarily going to blow you away, but he puts it wherever he needs to. He's a high strikeout, low walk guy, and has been thoroughly impressive in the spurts we've seen him in Scranton Wilkes-Barre this year.
Well, we've actually seen him this year, but it wasn't anything dynamic that you remember back against the Oakland Athletics. But at the big league level, established career, where do you view him on a staff?
I think he is at least a 3 or a 4. I mean, maybe you get him a 5, but he could be thoroughly effective out of the bullpen. He didn't really get enough time, I think, to shine in New York this year. They put him on just that yo-yo track back and forth between the Bronx and Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and that's tough on every one of these guys. But when he was up there, save a couple of outings, he was outstanding. I mean, it was difficult to hit. He was putting guys away. So I think you're getting at least a 3 or a 4 right there, if not a decent left-hander long arm out of the bullpen.
Well, what you're getting is versatility, and a team like the A's, where we are now and where the game is going. My God, with the average starting pitchers this year only throwing 84 pitches a game, the death of the starting pitcher. If you're somebody that can be, let's say, a 3, a 4, very valuable, and you're good coming out of the bullpen, you can eat innings out of the bullpen, that's a valuable piece and a very versatile guy, and everybody's looking for that, so that's good. As you mentioned, Waldichuk out of San Diego came up here, pitched at St. Mary's. We're looking more at a high-velocity guy, right, with stuff?
He's a 4-pitch guy. His fastball, 96, maybe 97. We saw him in the Futures game barely. A couple of weeks back, he threw 3 pitches, 96, 95, 96. The control is still a work in progress, I think, because he's throwing 95, 96 from the left side, but he can be very good when he is on. He works all around the zone. You're looking at a 1-2 right there with Ken Waldichuk. I really do think you are. He has been impressive at each level, limited time since the Yankees drafted him, but he's been impressive at each level. He might be a little bit further away than J.P. Sears. Like Sears could go up and help a team tomorrow, Waldachuk might be a 2023 kind of guy, but I think fans will really like what you're going to get out of both of those lefties.
Well, that's what I like to hear, and I think that's what A's fans want to hear, because everything we've talked about, this is the year of discovery for the A's. You know, we just had that run, went to the playoffs 3 straight years, and then last year came up short, won 86 games, but this obviously is a pivot season. So what we're trying to find out right now is who can help, but really who can help for the future. And what you're telling me is I got 2 guys that could be in the rotation, one in Waldachuk, who could be one of our better guys, a versatile guy in Sears, but you're giving me 2 guys that could be pitching at the big league level next year.
It wouldn't shock me, and I don't know the A's through and through. It wouldn't shock me if you saw Ken Waldachuk in the big leagues later this year, quite honestly. Threatening for a big league rotation spot next year wouldn't shock me whatsoever. You got a couple other guys in that deal in Luis Medina, who we haven't seen yet. He's for me, he was that next guy up from Double-A. If we were going to lose an arm this week, I expected Medina to be one of the guys we would see. So I think you've got a couple of high-end prospects. Admittedly, don't know much about the 4th guy in this deal, but I think it's a pretty decent haul considering what the Yankees gave up from their minor league system the last couple of weeks in the Benintendi deal. Now this deal, it's a lot. And I hope for New York's sake it works out, and I hope for these players, because each of the guys we've talked about, they have been phenomenal to work with. They've been easy to talk to. They've handled the media well. Not that, AAA media is difficult, but I think they're guys that can excel no matter where you put them.
Well, that is a big thing for us, because one thing I think everybody in baseball understands is that Oakland, one of the things that's one of the great qualities is that it's always a good clubhouse. It's a great mixture, great chemistry, and it's one of the reasons why everybody who comes here loves playing here. It's because it's a rip-roaring time, and everybody, rarely do we have those issues. So if you're a bad dude and you show up here, you will be exposed really fast. So that's why I'm glad to hear good guys coming in. And Medina, from what I'm getting, scouting reports, you're going to know the organization even if you haven't seen him. We're hearing a high-velocity guy, but a guy that has trouble throwing strikes. Is that what you've heard?
There are a couple of guys I've seen in the system that kind of fit that mold. So it's a lot of what I've heard about him. It's very similar to some other pitchers that we've seen over the years. The Yankees have done a nice job kind of harnessing that strength and working to minimize the weaknesses. So there are a few players that mold sounds exactly what we've seen from a Luis Gil or a Davy Garcia as they were coming up through the organization. Those guys have been hurt this year. They might have been in a similar conversation had they been healthy this season. And I've heard a lot of similarities between Medina and those guys. So I think if you've got somebody out there that can kind of harness that and reel him back in, I think that's just another arm that you're going to win with.
Now, you've been doing minor leagues for a long time, and I think about in your career how you've watched the evolution of starting pitching. You've watched how they're babying these guys at every single level, less and less innings pitched. So when we look at Medina, is Medina just a guy that you have seen a lot of, whether it's starters, relievers, high velocity, working on his secondary stuff, and has trouble throwing strikes? That's kind of par for the course, isn't it, for what you've seen a lot of?
It is. And a little context, I've been in baseball about 15 years now, and I remember watching Luis Mendoza throw a no-hitter in 08-09, where he threw 126 pitches. And I can't fathom that for a AAA starter now.
Yeah.
Guys, we had a pitcher, Matt Crook, who's still on our team, throw 7 2/3 perfect. And his hard limit in a near perfect game attempt was 100 pitches. So it's being reeled back so much. Is Medina a long-term starter? Maybe that's a guy, if you can't quite bring that control in, you bring back the pitch mix, you bring him down to a 1-2 pitch guy, you put him out there for an inning and you let him try to blow people away. And that's also a very valuable commodity these days as well. So I think if it's not a win immediately with Medina, if it's a longer-term project, because he was down in Double-A last year and he was in Double-A this year, maybe that's a guy that factors late 23, 24 for the A's. I think it's still a win because of the potential. There's so much that people buy out of potential for 95 plus in an arm right now that if you can find ways to make that work for you, then it's an absolute win for Oakland.
One thing that obviously our fans, and whether it's talking about our minor league system or Yankee fans, their minor league system, is during the season, you have fan bases down the minor leagues, AAA, AA, whichever level. You fall in love with players. And I don't know what kind of year you guys are having, but like in a minor league year, you could be having a great year. You could be having a record year. It could be such a great team. And then all of a sudden there's injuries. It's the trade deadline. There's movement. For years we had the waiver wire process, and there's movement going up and down. And all of a sudden this team that you've been paying your hard-earned money to watch now obviously is changed, and you get in the playoffs. It's not the same team. So a lot of people don't think about that, but it can be tough on minor league baseball fans.
It really can. And I'll give you a synopsis of our season. We were 4-1 to start the year, and then found ourselves 17 games under 500, 15 and a half games back. We got swept in a doubleheader on June 8th. From that point in time, this club's been lights out. 18-6 in July. It was the best record of any minor league baseball team that plays full season ball. So the 120 clubs. Nobody had a better record of the full season teams than the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. So we've gone from the depths, 10th place, to now tied for 5th, 3 games out in a matter of 45 days. And my capital in this team is I talk about it for 3 hours a night. I am invested in this. I don't like losing. I don't like watching bad baseball. I have to talk about it for 3 hours. Like, I want to win. So seeing guys, and I'm happy for Waldachuk and Sears and Hayden Wisniewski, who got traded, the first deal the Yankees made yesterday, got traded over to the Chicago Cubs. Like, I'm happy for these guys because clearly they're going to get a shot sooner there than they would with the Yankees, it seems. And Sears had his chances and could have been back up there tomorrow, quite honestly. But I'm invested in it. Like, I want to win on a nightly basis. I hate the trade deadline. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to see 2018, the Yankees traded away 7 of our 25-man roster at the deadline. A quarter of the roster shipped out for that playoff run. Like, I was jittery yesterday. Like, let's just go. Let's get it over with, because you don't know what you're going to walk into on Tuesday. You don't know what you're going to walk into after this trade deadline. I think we still have a good team. I don't know if it's what we were, because we were pitching heavy. That's what got us back to where we were. So it's tough. It's melancholy. You want to see these guys do well. You want to see them get to the big leagues. You want it to be with you, with the New York Yankees. But on the same side of that, I want to win on a nightly basis. I know the Yankees want to win. The A's want to win. Everybody wants to win. And we had it. So I don't know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah, it's not easy. And also, with the way the Yankees have been rolling for so long, I try, you and I are old enough we remember when the Yankees weren't good. And, Don Mattingly only made the playoffs one time in his career.
Sure.
I mean, there were a lot of issues with the Yankees for many years. That's when we were young. Now, this generation of fans, the Yankees are in the playoffs every year. I mean, it's just been an incredible run. But what also makes that tough is that, like Oakland is the land of opportunity. You get in this organization, doesn't matter where you're drafted, doesn't matter your signing bonus. I mean, you play, you shoot through the organization, you have a chance to make the big leagues, and we can end on this. That's not the same in certain organizations, and very tough right now if you're a minor leaguer for the Yankees, wouldn't you say, to try and crack that 26-man roster.
The pressure is always on in New York, and I saw we hosted Brian Cashman on a Zoom prior to the season, and he talked about that. That was one of the questions somebody asked, like, you're never off the hook. It's always got to be on, and it's a fan base that is passionate about it. And every organization, every team has its passionate fans. We get a guy here in AAA who has a 3-hit night, and the response is always call him up. Everybody is call him up. I tweet that out constantly now. Like, list off 5 guys, call them all up. Like, nobody is ever happy. It's always the next thing. And a 70-win team, a guy with, no matter what they do, it's never enough until they win number 28. And then it will not be enough until they win number 29. It is such a very different mindset. I grew up in the Pittsburgh area. I grew up an LA Dodgers fan until I started to like the Pirates and their 20 years of misery. So, like, it's different than anything else in the world. No matter what, never enough. And I give them credit because they get there and they have the chance and they have the opportunity. Now they just need to get over that hump for the 28th time.
It's New York, and it's the New York Yankees. And when you talk about call them up, remember, everybody loves the backup quarterback. Everybody loves the backup quarterback.
Always.
Hey, thank you so much for your time. We truly appreciate the insight, and good luck to you the rest of the season.
Thank you, and best of luck to you guys. And enjoy our former rail riders out there on the West Coast.